welcome to the Religious Treehouse. I'm Jodie.
I'm Matthew.
And how are you doing today, Matthew?
I'm feeling a little curious because you always say welcome back to the religious treehouse. I always say welcome to the religious treehouse, but you switched it up today. You welcomed people to the religious treehouse as if there's new people here. Hi,
Yeah.
new people.
Hello, new people. I'm hopeful. I'm always
Hopefully,
hopeful.
hopeful. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I power washed a mini golf course in virtual reality. I know.
Of course.
I know. It's bad. It's a bad, scary place Meta is building, and it calls to me.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
No comment. No comment.
No comment, but the judgment is felt through the screen.
Of course, of course,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course. I mean, hey, we post on Facebook. We bow down to our, social media overlords. So who
Yes.
am I to judge?
Right.
We also post on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and you can listen to all of us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. Okay, now that that plug's gone.
Oh yeah, we don't have to do that at the end now, right? Like we're good, we're covered.
Yeah, yeah, we're
What
good.
did what did we do this week, Matthew?
We are doing one of our famous movie episodes, world famous movie episodes, and we're talking about one of the most famous religious movies of all time, debatably,
So generous.
Bruce Almighty.
Woo!
Woo!
A Jim Carrey movie is always a
Uh,
great thing this time of year. My go-to is usually The Grinch, but this is a good way to start the season.
I forget that Jim Carrey was the Grinch, but I guess
I
that's true.
don't know how you cook,
I
but
think
okay.
more of him as like the Truman Show. Like if I think of
Hmm.
like the quintessential Jim Carrey movie, I think of the Truman Show.
I've never seen that all the way through.
Really, it's so good. But I feel like
Okay.
that's a very basic thing for me to say.
Well, you also like Home Alone, so.
I do not like Home Alone. Why would you
Oh
say I
no,
like
that's
Home
something
Alone?
I imagined.
What?
And I said this last year. I was like, you look like you would enjoy Home Alone.
Yeah, I mean it's a fine movie, but like it lacks substance. Now, the Truman Show does not lack substance. Bruce Almighty, not a lot there, but we'll talk about that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Where shall we start? Well, we
Let's
can
start
start
with
with the cookie.
we can start with hey, the cookie, or we could do a summary so that I mean I feel like this is a movie that most people have seen, right? Like
I don't know. I feel the ancient texts are being lost with the younger generation. I'm not sure younger children appreciate Jim Carrey.
right, because you've seen this one before, right?
Yes.
Is this our first movie where we both have done a rewatch?
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I don't
Are
know.
you happy it's this and not God's Not Dead?
I'm so glad we're not watching God's Not Dead. We'll have to watch it at some point, but that's gonna take some real like life force draining from me when we do that.
And it's also going to take some draining of our list for it to end up there because
Yeah.
I think you will just pick any other thing on the list before you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Because then we'd
because
have to watch the sequels.
and let me tell you, I am not going to watch a sequel to God's Not Dead. No offense, no matter how much we want to analyze it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Bruce Almighty. Bruce Almighty is a movie about Jim Carrey and Jennifer Aniston, also known as Rachel from Friends.
Mm.
Um, and once again, I go back to just relating these people to TV shows characters. But Bruce is a newsman, special interest, funny guy who wants the better position, and then he gets looked over and he gets so mad at God. Oh God, why would you let this happen? Yada yada yada. I can do your job so much better than you, God. Yada yada yada. And God, also known as Morgan Freeman. And I want to talk about that. Why do we cast Morgan Freeman as God?
Because
But
he is.
sure, sure. Um, Morgan Freeman, aka God, is like, what if you be God for a day or two or a week or two? And he says, cool, bada bing, bada boom. Jim Carrey has God powers, he's God, and then stuff happens, and he's like, wait, what if God's job is actually a lot harder than I think it is? And morals are learned, and things that are funny happen, and he's just so upset that even though he's God, he still can't get his girlfriend to be happy, and they're all relationship turmoil, and then eventually he gets hit by a bus. Spoilers. And then he's like, oh my goodness, I still love her. She still loves me. Happy ending. Woo! But there's a lot that happens in there that vaguely relates to religion. but I think this will be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Did
Yep.
I miss
I think so.
any important details for people who haven't seen this classic film, this classic 2003 Jim Carrey film?
From your basic summary, no, I don't think so. I think that's a
Cool.
good base for us to start on. The movie opens up with, of course, Bruce doing puff pieces because that's what he does.
Hmm.
So he is at a cute little pastry shop where they are making the largest cookie.
Yeah,
And he doesn't seem to be as enthused about it as I would be, but I also probably wouldn't be so enthused after finding out that they were shut down by the health department for rat poop.
sure, sure. Sometimes it adds flavor.
Did you know there is a certain amount of bugs that are as acceptable in our chocolate?
Well, yeah, there's a certain amount of bugs allowed in anything.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain number of bodies allowed in a body of water that we're
Mhm.
comfortable swimming in. We don't know what that ratio is, but it's
Yeah.
one of those fun things to think about. Because like
And
one body in a pool, not going to sleep in that. But there's so many bodies in the ocean, and we sleep in that. So there's a line somewhere in there.
tons of bodies in Lake Superior, apparently.
Yeah. So
And
these are things
they
to
just
think
said no.
about. Um, but yeah, so some rat poop in a cookie, no
There's
big
an
deal.
acceptable amount.
There's an acceptable amount.
There is an acceptable amount.
Right, right. Not to the health department, but to, everyone else.
But he seems thoroughly unamused by
Right.
this. He just wants to be anchor. He wants to be the big man.
Mm.
He wants to be the one calling shots and saying the big important things and breaking the big news. And he has a lovely girlfriend named Grace. I love that they named Jennifer Aniston's character Grace. I thought that was beautiful.
That went completely over my head until you
Hmm.
said that.
Yeah, and you say this movie has no substance. Let's
I'm
get
so
to
sorry.
school. No, he just it was so nice, and that's what she is. That's what she embodies during
Mhm.
this entire movie. It's
Yeah,
great.
no, she's this, a kindergarten teacher type.
She a daycare worker who gives blood. That's one of the first things she does in the movie, and her blood is important because it can go to a lot of people because
Mm.
she's AB. So it's not O neg, but
Right, 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 right.
so we have that going on, and they're dating. That's
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
That they're just dating at this point. They're not engaged, they're not married.
Sure.
He goes to work and he is oh so competitive with Evan. I didn't realize Evan was in this movie.
Really?
Yeah,
I first saw Evan Almighty, which great movie. I haven't
yeah.
seen that in years, but we'll talk about that at some point too. We'll do like a Noah episode, and then we'll do Evan Almighty. That'll be fun. Um, but yeah, classic Evan, classic Steve Carell, classic Michael Scott.
It also made me wonder. I was like, wait, Steve Carell's in another movie about news anchors, which is Anchorman.
Anchorman.
So like what's the fascination with news people?
Yeah,
But it is
well,
kind of fascinating.
and he
That's
was
what
also on the Daily Show, so like he could have been like typecast in that position for a while.
I didn't know he was on the Daily Show.
I think he was, right?
I don't know, man.
That's a detour. That doesn't matter. Okay.
Detour. The two, yes. So that I didn't realize the two movies were connected. I
Mm.
thought Morgan Freeman just picked two random men who were complaining because that's all Bruce was doing. All he could complain about was his luck. He's just
Sure.
like, everything's the worst. He steps in a puddle, which you then see paralleled later once he has godly powers. He walks on water,
Ooh.
and he just nothing can go right for him, and he just blames everything else, even though he is this amazing girlfriend who donates blood and is nice to him. What more could a man want?
Sure, sure.
Sure.
A man could want to be God.
And so he decides that he is going, well, okay, now, so what happens is the main anchor is stepping down. He and Evan are fighting for this role. He gets told by one of the big guys at the news place that like he should go do this specific thing, and like we're keeping an eye on you kids. So he's feeling good. He's like, I might get the job. He tells Grace he might get the job. He finds out while on air because he's going to get his first time to shoot live, because with puff pieces you pre-film them and then they edit them and put them into the So he's going to get his chance to film live, and he finds out Evan wins it, and he just loses it. They're at Niagara Falls. He's not having a good day, guys. So he gets fired
Right.
and tells Grace everything in his life is mediocre, and he's tired of his mediocre life, and she's tired of him making it all about him. He gets a random call. Was it a call?
He got the beeper, the pager. He got paged because this was
Yep,
2003.
paged. He got
Five five
paged to
five 0 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 4 or something like that. The most basic number they could think of. Hilarious.
So he got paged and he called, and they were like, head here. He goes to this building. He stumbles upon a janitor who's mopping,
Mhm.
and the janitor's like, want to help? And he's like, yeah, I'll help you on the 7th at 7. And continues on his way. Elevators aren't working. He has to take the stairs. He gets up to the next floor. He sees a ladder and this guy up in it, and he's talking to him. He comes down. It's Morgan Freeman again, because he was the janitor. And there's a bright light above them.
Wow.
Wow.
Must be
Amazing.
God.
Yep. And then Morgan Freeman says the man in charge will be here soon, and then strips off his janitor uniform to put on his suit, have
Mhm.
his suit on. And then does he just say, I'm God?
Essentially, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Um, and this, okay, so what I think is really funny about this movie is its lack of reference to any religion. Like, not once does it really ever reference like precisely like Christianity or Judaism or whatever. At one point, um, God, Morgan Freeman, like he pulls like the trick um on Bruce, and he has him say, how many fingers am I holding behind my back? And Bruce has seven, or he has five behind his back, but God says seven, and Bruce shows his hand. It's like seven fingers because God can do miracles and stuff like that. And he makes a joke that that was like the same trick he pulled on Gandhi, which I thought was very interesting because it's playing on this idea of like a very, very Christian notion of a God. Like all of the religion being portrayed in this film is this basic Christian, idea of a God without like much, thought or theology behind it. And then they also have this crossover with like this is also the God to Gandhi, which I thought was interesting. But this presents religion not in a way that is for any particular religion. Like this isn't Christianity per se. This is very much presenting Western religion and like the American religion. How do Americans perceive religion? How do Americans perceive God, whether or not they are religious or not? And I think that's the appeal of this movie because you can watch this movie and it's deeply layered religious references, and it makes sense to the American audience, not because they're necessarily Christian, but because so much of this ideology, so much of this way of thinking about religion is just laid out here for us because that's how we understand religion as Americans. And I think that's so interesting about this movie. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Yeah. It's because a lot of so many of the things that happen and the things they do
Hmm.
very much draw attention to the American lifestyle, like the lottery winning.
Hmm.
Everyone's entering the lottery, but everyone wins, so everyone gets $17.
Right.
And his desire for a nice car. All of these things he wants are very Western, very American. Uh, he wants the dream, the
Hmm.
American dream, I think, or what he thinks it is, or
Sure.
Walter Cronkite. I'm not sure what his thing with Walter Cronkite was, but I felt that should, I don't know. I was
Mm.
like, are there references I'm missing because I don't understand?
Yeah, I don't
Anyways,
know,
yeah.
but
Well, sorry. I don't know. Tangent there. No, I agree. And then with the referencing other religions, he holds a beaded bracelet at one point that's Grace's, and he
Mhm.
prays over it. So at one point he's praying over beads, but not necessarily referencing any religion there.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because it's this tangible reminder that's used, and we've talked about this in material culture,
Yeah.
here and there, where like there's this tangible object that acts as some way to centralize. spirituality, to centralize religious practice, and it's kind of used to do that, to represent this relationship between the characters and the divine, whatever that may be in this situation. So we see the bracelets being passed around throughout the movie, to being thrown in the water, to being picked up by God, to be given back to Jim Carrey. And I think that acts in a way, for the movie to, kind of signify the relationship between not only Bruce and Grace, but the relationship between, how, religion and the divine kind of interacts throughout the movie as well.
Yeah. And then to continue with like the way they displayed, like maybe you reference different religions, splitting the tomato soup was obviously parting the Red Sea.
Hmm.
He did things that you like could attribute to Jesus or to Moses. I'm trying to remember what the Jesus moment was for
Well, I
me.
mean, he
Walking
walked
on
on
water.
water. They were walking
Yeah.
on water,
Yeah.
and that was obviously a reference to Jesus. Like this was very much the imagery used that was for a specific religion was Christian imagery. And that's not because I think they were necessarily presenting a Christian deity, but because they're presenting the general idea of religion, the general idea of a god in Western culture. And the general idea of a god in Western culture is, going to be, for the most part, Christianity. But they did this without mentioning any, without explicitly mentioning any Christian, creeds or doctrines or beliefs, or,
Yeah.
even referencing the Bible. Other than, we did have references to like thys and thous, kind of poking at like this is how, religion is performed by using formal, archaic language.
I did like when the homeless man held up thy kingdom come. I was like,
Mm,
yeah. Uh, that was funny. I really liked the use of he was both the homeless man and God.
mm,
As you find out at the end, I really like the use of him as he was the most least of them of any of the characters.
mm,
And the way that story progressed, I enjoyed. I thought this is such a feel good movie. Like when you
mm.
got to the end, there were parts I did not like. I did not like him making a women's skirt fly up so he could look at her undies. I didn't
Yeah,
appreciate that,
that
I
was
gotta say.
problematic.
But his sex magic between him and Grace, I'm like, okay, there are some
Sure,
benefits here.
sure, sure.
I made me a tad uncomfortable, but I was like, go off, I guess.
Yeah, it was random. I'll give him that.
Well, he was given like so few rules.
Mhm.
Like he couldn't affect someone's free will, right?
Oh yeah, so that was like the other big thing of the movie that I hated. I think they did that really poorly, and that's me because I've studied like existentialism very, very little. Um, but like the idea that like he has two rules, that he can't affect free will, and then what's the other one? Don't let other people know that you're God.
Yeah.
Whatever, boring. That one's boring. But like on the one hand, it's a beautiful message. Like you can't let, like the whole discussion is, you can't let, or you can't alter anyone's free will. And then Bruce says, "Can I ask why?" And God says, "Of course you can. That's like why, like you can't do it, yada yada." That's the beauty of it, because you can't ask why. But he was just altering free will left and right. Like that's all he was doing. Like was altering free will. Maybe not directly. Maybe not saying, "Okay, your free will has changed," but like all of the things that he was doing was altering free will in some way or another.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why. Like, why make that rule if it, like, that just felt weird to me and not completely thought through. Like it was trying to be like a cute little, like, wow, profound moment, and it just fell flat.
Yeah. Which because it was supposed to the culmination of that rule comes later when Grace is separating herself from Bruce and he
Mm,
is trying to will her to stay with him, but she actively does not want to.
right.
So there is that, and I did read a little bit of a Reddit conversation on this.
Oh, oh, good. Yes, let's consult the Reddit, the holy text Reddit.
No, because I thought it was interesting because so with Evan, when he goes to back to the news room
Mm,
and he's going to he wants to affect things so he can be the anchor.
right.
He forces Evan to say things.
Right.
Evan could not
But,
control the words coming out of his mouth, but he could control the will that he wanted to talk.
mm,
So he had his will, he wanted to speak, he wanted his mouth to move, but he could not control what was coming out of it.
sure. But I think this gets into the idea of freedom and rights and responsibility. Like we have the responsibility not to limit. This is existentialism talking. This is Camus and Sartre.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
we have the responsibility to not limit people's freedom. And if what's the terminology? It's been a while since I've read Sartre. Um, it's the duty, um, oh, what is his terminology? Bad faith. We have to act in, this is the conversation of good and bad faith. To act in good faith is to, allow and permit free choice, to permit freedom and stuff like that. And acting in bad faith is taking away that, freedom, that free will.
Yeah.
And so, like, very much acting like Bruce is acting and taking away that free will and acting in bad faith. Um, and then at the very end, too, Morgan Freeman himself does it. Like with Bruce getting hit by the car or the bus, thus affecting Grace's free will and falling back for Bruce again. So I don't know. Like I think there's like you can, and this is always the discussion with free will. It's such an annoying conversation. I hate this conversation, but we're doing it anyways. It's
But,
like two random dude bros talking on a couch. Do we really have free will? That's what we're doing right now, and I hate it.
and you thought we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm worried we don't have enough to say, but we're getting on to free will. I don't know. I think that he didn't make that truck hit him. Like
Right.
he brought him back to life,
Mm.
which affected Grace's decision, but I don't think he affected her free will. I mean, God, and I wrote down what he says. You can't kneel down in the middle of a highway and live to talk about it, son. I was
Hmm.
like, that's so powerful.
Right. But was that like, see, but that can be interpreted as like a threat of sorts as well. Like, you can't do that. I won't allow it. Because,
And okay,
okay.
continuing with the
And this
Reddit.
is the fun part of biblical interpretation because you have to like figure all these things out. And this is where the discussions happen, and this is where wars are fought and millions of people die because of conversations like this, but regarding the Bible, not a 2003 Jim Carrey movie.
So now we get to my other Reddit thing. Someone said in Bruce Almighty, Morgan Freeman's character is actually Satan, not God.
Elaborate.
The entire premise of the movie is that Bruce grew to hate God and then was given incredible powers to prove that being the Almighty is harder than it looks. But look at the situation objectively. Satan would see a much greater opportunity in a mortal growing to hate God. That would allow him to tempt and manipulate the person far more than normal. Not only that, but God is supposed to be omnipotent, whereas the being okay, that Bruce had met had clear limitations, particularly related to free will. The things that Bruce used his powers for also make me question if they came from God. He made a monkey crawl out of a guy's ass, then jump back in. And in a deleted scene, he lit Evan Baxter on fire with a look of pure maliciousness. Bruce's abuse of his powers eventually caused the city to descend into absolute chaos. I just doubt that God would allow so many people to get hurt just because one single news anchor had a crisis of faith. The story makes more sense if you think of Morgan Freeman's character as an evil genie giving Bruce exactly what he wishes for and taking pleasure in the chaos that ensues. Now, I'm not saying I agree with them. I think they could have made a more convincing argument.
I have so many thoughts, Jody.
Let's hear them.
First of all, let's talk about canon. Because I think this isn't something that we've talked about with movies yet, but like what makes it into a movie and what doesn't make it into a movie, how does that affect what, goes into the story? So is, Bruce lighting Evan on fire part of the story? Is that part of the canon? Much like in the Bible, as we've talked about in previous episodes, what makes it into the Bible and what doesn't make it into the Bible, how does that affect importance, and like the Apocrypha, like we talk about the Apocrypha and how that's considered canon for some and not considered canon for others. How does that affect, the text as a whole, the movie as a whole? Do we consider Evan getting lit on fire to be part of the story or not? If that is a deleted scene.
I mean, well, then we have to sit and talk about Lord of the Rings and do we accept the director's cut? Because it wasn't the official cut that came out first.
And this is where nerds go to thrive. Like these conversations here, so exciting.
Like, are we supposed to just sit there and be like, hey, this scene wasn't what I saw in theaters, but I'm just supposed to accept that it's part of the story now? So yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Or these living documents or these living texts that can breathe and change.
mm,
And like when shows on Netflix or something get an episode removed because they say something controversial, they do something wrong or offensive, and they get an episode removed, like does that change the canon? Does that? And these are so fun things to think about, because it happens in religion too. Especially when we talk about Christianity and the evolution of the Bible, as texts are removed and added, until we get the Bible that we know today, the Bibles that we know today. Like, how does that influence the way people practice their religion? How does that influence the way we can think about these religions? How does it influence the way we can think about these movies? These are all questions that I think about all the time.
yes. And when we relate them to movies, it's easier for me to understand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Any other thoughts on the Satan thing?
Of course.
Okay.
So the idea that this movie didn't explore, that I think is in the forefront of the Western idea of religion,
Mm,
is the idea of a divine opponent. We
yeah.
often think of, in Western religion, we think of these forces of good versus bad, God versus Satan of some sort. There's this, as we've been talking about through our um, religious terrorism and extremism series, there's always this cosmic war going on between, the good
Yeah.
divinity and the bad spirituality. And that wasn't really explored in this movie, I don't think, unless I'm
No,
missing something. There's
it
this
wasn't.
benevolent figure, God,
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, that is doing these good things without an opposing force. The only opposing force are the interpersonal problems between Jim Carrey and people around him.
I mean, they didn't even mention sin.
Right. Well, it was devoid of all, religious theology of any religion. It was just like, hey, this is what we think of as religion, very base level, without getting into the details and without getting denominational or specific about it. So I thought it was very interesting for it to not have a backboard of a negative deity. So I think that's an interesting idea, a
Yeah.
very Christian idea. Whoever this Reddit poster is obviously very Christian, um, and is struggling with the problem that this didn't deal with Christian theology in the way that they're familiar with Christian theology,
Yeah.
but rather is presenting a religion devoid of any specific religious creeds or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm now realizing how I watched this movie was from a very Christian lens because I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, sometimes God is mean, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
And that's how they expected us to watch this movie. Like this, it was a target audience that kind of looks at the world through this, vaguely Christian lens to some extent or another.
I mean, I don't think God lifts women's skirts up, but what do I know?
Well,
Um, no, okay. Any other thoughts on the Satan thing?
I'm sure it'll come up, but those are like my
I'm
two
trying
main
to,
thoughts from what you read right there.
I had another thought about it. What was it? It's on the tip of my brain. Matthew, do you think that there is the same fear of Satan around the world as there is within the Western world? Like,
Same for you.
like the fear
Well,
of Satan.
oh, I mean, a lot of religions have, like, are you talking about in Christianity specifically?
Yeah, there's this the underlying fear of Satan and sin and this dark opponent that's in all corners and never know where it is that is prevalent. And I think we maybe have talked about this before now that
Mhm.
I'm speaking in one of our other things. But is that as prevalent, you think, in other countries with other, or even with other religions?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like a lot of religions have some form of, good versus evil happening. Um, yeah, like none off the top of my mind have any exclusive um, you know, idea of there's just only a divine good or divine whatever. If they believe in some divinity, if they believe in some god of some sort, a lot of them often have an opponent to that deity. Like Christianity, the development of Satan is the one that we're most familiar with. But there's also evil spirits in Islam, and there's epic stories of good and evil in Hinduism, and all these different religions tend to have this idea of good and bad to some extent.
Okay.
Judaism, like there's similar. There's not like a Satan figure per se. I think as much as a lot of modern Christians will think of the Satan figure, but yeah, I think there is a Satan. Not I don't think as to put to be
Do you think the fear is felt though? Because there is this
I think
threat,
they're
this
different.
pressure that you can feel within certain evangelical circles.
Yeah, I think they're different. I think that I don't think it's appropriate to say that there's an archetypal Satan figure in all of these religions. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think that's
No,
appropriate.
no.
But what I do think that we can see parallels in, if we want to, is see that there's this negative force opposing the good force of this cosmic
Yeah,
push and pull of good and evil in some sense here and there.
yeah.
And saying that there's a parallel of Satan in all of these, I don't think is super helpful. But yeah,
But what about the sense of fear? Like, do you think there's this same sense of fear? Like, or do you think there's a uniqueness
I
to the
mean, no,
American way?
there is fear, I think, but it's different.
Okay.
Um,
I was just
like
wondering. I don't know why. I wonder what other people with the of
because
the
there's
same.
so like a lot of like polytheistic religions will
Mhm.
look at um the more negative figures as like something to fear, but also like there's some respect there sometimes as well.
Yeah.
So like I'd say it's rare to have a not rare, I don't know, um but to have a figure of just pure evilness, of pure distancing yourself, wanting to distance yourself from them, isn't universal.
Okay.
um like there's a lot of trickster gods and stuff like that where they're generally seen in negative light
Yeah.
for X, Y, and Z reasons, but there's also some appeal to them. There's some you know not maybe not good per se, but there's some connection to them that isn't completely fully wholly negative. And then sometimes there are characters that are fully and wholly evil, however we want to describe that. But yeah, I don't know if this is answering your question in a way that's
It does,
helpful.
it doesn't, it doesn't. Because you didn't feel that fear in the movie.
Hmm.
There wasn't any overhanging dark cloud other than his own actions.
Right,
Like, it was all sunshine and lollipops. There was no real like darkness
right.
to the movie. And the absence of that, I don't know, it felt unpleasant to me.
Hmm.
And it made me think, because when I'm thinking about like the American religion, I the fear is a very big part of it for me.
Mm.
Like the way some people approach theirs. So
Yeah,
but that could also just be my upbringing.
right.
And
Well, and I think there's also the fact that this came out in 2003,
hmm,
and the idea of presenting religious ideas that weren't this safe Christian idea, but that were if we were to present religious ideals that were Muslim or non-Western in some form or another, I think that would be less appealing to the audience, and they would push away from this light comedy movie.
yeah, which is what it's supposed to be. Everything's just gritty now, man. It
Yeah,
took a turn in the 2000. I blame Twilight. I blame Twilight.
You can't bring Twilight into every episode, Jodie.
I think I'm going to from now on. Such a large part of my personality. It needs to continue.
Sure, sure. So like moving on from the the Reddit, the holy Reddit post. Um, I think another interesting thing that they used was the dog and how that was like a recurring theme to like show the progression of what was going on.
Beautiful slave. Definitely. I think that the dog was a every this movie just moved so well. They used all of the pieces. They brought it back together. I hate when a movie leaves something at the beginning and they give me no resolution on it. We even got a resolution on the damn cookie people.
Of
Like
course.
we got a resolution on everything. But the dog to me was a very funny bit. I enjoyed watching the dog pee in the toilet and then put the seat down.
Mhm.
I was like, it's casual fun comedy like that really gets to my heart. Okay. The consequences of the things he did. Pulling the moon
Mm.
caused a tsunami across the world. Other crimes he committed.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's
I'm
talk
going to
about
call these
crimes.
things that other crimes. The dead body he found in the park,
Oh
buried
yeah,
with the birth certificate.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Did he kill him? Was this
Jimmy
person
Hoffa?
already deceased? I don't
He's
I
like
don't
a
know who that is.
he's like an old-time gangster.
Why? Okay, so that's why it's fine. Because he was a gangster.
Well, he was like I think the idea was that this is a dead gangster who we've been looking for his body for a long time.
Okay.
And look, we have it on camera, them finding it.
Okay. Well, I guess I needed to be clued into that for it to
Yeah.
make sense to me. I was like, this name seems significant. I won't be Googling.
Yeah, sure. Let me make
And
sure we got
then,
that.
no, but then my other issue is the marijuana in the news. We've completely lost following the movie chronologically, by the way. But the marijuana within the other news van, because he's there to get the scoop on them
Hold
about
up.
this.
I don't think he was a gangster. I think I'm thinking of someone else.
Oh,
I think Jimmy Hoffa was a labor union leader.
oh, well, then that's a commentary I don't even want to think about. God kills a labor union leader?
Wait, is he? I was certain he was a gangster. Who am I thinking of?
Or maybe he never even said the name Jimmy Hoffa. Maybe he said something else.
No, it was Jimmy Hoffa because he was like we never found his body. That's something I know about him. I don't know why that's something I know about him. Guys, tell us in the comments who Jimmy Hoffa is. Yeah, he was alleged to have ties to organized crime. Yeah, he was a
Okay.
gangster,
Okay.
a labor union leader gangster.
Yes.
Hey, guys, if you have any references or like things that you think we should learn about regarding James Riddle Hoffa, as this Wikipedia article is telling me, let us know in the comments. Tell us what we need to learn about Jimmy Hoffa so we can talk about this.
But why did it have to be bags of weed and weed plants? He just needed to put one of them. But he was like, no, I'm going to get them for two federal crimes.
Jodie, this is 2003, where everyone hates marijuana.
It's ridiculous, man. I was like, why does it have to be? It's overkill. He messed with Evan so much, messing with the teleprompter. That's where we left off with Free Will. No, I picked that. Poor Grace. Poor Grace. He takes her out to this wonderful dinner.
Mm,
And she's like, I'm going to get proposed to. Nothing. It's all about his damn promotion.
yeah, and Tony Bennett. Don't forget about Tony Bennett. He was there.
And that's true. I couldn't figure out who that was. I was like Lady Gaga and the old guy.
What?
Trying to finish the phrase Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. He's just older. Although I must say, he didn't look any different between the movie and one of the last times he was pictured with Gaga.
What
So
does
he
this have
aged
to do
well.
with Lady Gaga?
They were friends. They wrote an album together, I believe.
Okay.
They went to red carpets together. It's adorable.
Sure.
The prayers. So when he started hearing voices, I was like, oh, that's everyone
Mm.
praying because it was near nighttime. What was your favorite or of the organizational systems?
Oh, okay. So I thought this was really interesting. I think this is like one of the more thought-provoking parts of the movie that I really appreciated
Okay.
because it kind of steps away from like the general idea of like this Western idea of religion and kind of asks the question like if there is a deity, if there is a God, how does that God do what that God does? Like how does that God figure this stuff out? And I think that's a great question to think about. And in this Christianity themed world, there's this, we have the Omni God, the all-knowing, all-powerful, body, yada 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 God that a lot of Christians believe in. Not all, but a lot of Christians have this, Omni God that like can do things in his own time. This is, very explicitly a his God in this form of Christianity, where the God does things in their own time and can have these magical type abilities. I love the post-it notes. I thought that was fun. I thought it was visually appealing, but and I love the very 2003 file system. Like that just was scream 2003 to me.
Yeah.
And then we have this innovative idea of email.
Email.
Fantastic.
Love it.
Um,
Love it.
but yeah, it does make you think like how would a person handle these things with millions and millions of prayers? How could you respond to that? And I think that can be appealing to Christians, that because this is again for Christians, it can be appealing to Christians because on the one hand, it allows you to either think of your God as being so much bigger and better and being able to respond to these prayers in some way or another, or it helps you kind of I think this kind of helps justify a lot of people's lack of answers to prayers. Like what happens when it's the age old question, what happens when God says no? What happens when God doesn't answer your prayer? And I think this is a way that people can rationalize that. Maybe not consciously, but like if you look at this situation and they're like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of other things going on. And like even if you believe in this omni God, then maybe it makes sense that there's just not this pressing matter for, hoping your mac and cheese is cooked perfectly.
Yeah. No, and I liked it because you're right, because it did show like that you could rationalize that's why not all prayers get answered. But when we get to the end of the movie and when he thinks about the prayers and you kind of have this moment of it's the person. The person has to take control of
Mm,
their life if they want to get things done. Like the God thing is
yeah.
good, but pers what was the intelligent phrase I was just thinking of?
No,
Personal responsibility. I don't know.
right. Yeah, like his whole thing at the end is like, if you want a miracle, be the miracle.
Yes.
Um, and I think that again is a very, secularized religion that like Western religion can be comfortable with. Like, okay, yeah, we're doing a religion, and that is a good message. I really like that message. Like, if you
Yeah.
want something good to happen, do it. And I think that was a great message for the movie, because you can't have a comedy movie without a feel good moral attached to it, which I do appreciate. Um, do I love it being laid out for me like, in words? I don't love that, but um, like if you want a miracle, be the miracle. I think is a good message, like regardless of your religious affiliation.
Yeah. It was very nice. I agree the post-its was fun. I really liked the email. I don't know what else I would have wanted him to try. I want to know if the post-its was a practical. I think it was probably practical. Like they probably laid out all those post-its, yes?
I mean, it
I think
had to have been like
they
it
had to have
looked real. I mean, the screen transition of like all the posts flying in at once was so 2003, but yeah.
been. And oh my God, the music in this was so 2003. It was just such a good movie, so representative of the time. What else happened in this? He cheated. He did okay. He kissed an. Do you think he cheated on Grace?
Mm,
Was
what a
he
great
cheating when the
question.
other woman kissed him, or was he assaulted?
Fantastic question. Was the woman whose skirt he pushed up, was she assaulted?
Yes.
Yeah, that one clearly God assaulted her.
Yeah.
God being Bruce.
God being Bruce.
um,
And what if you
I
gave a white man God's powers?
what if
Well,
we learn? um, just nope, never mind. Um, I am under the impression that he was assaulted, but also he wasn't unhappy about it.
yeah, okay. I can see that.
And therefore she's mostly in the wrong.
Yeah.
The woman that kissed him was mostly in the wrong. Um, but Grace still reserves the right to, break up with him, no
Yeah.
questions asked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because there were so many things leading up to it. It's
Right.
straw that breaks the camel's back, you know? She had given him so much grace. And therefore he must cry. And he did cry.
Right.
He was very upset about it.
Poor
And
guy.
he wanted to he wanted to be alone. So he went to the top of Mount Everest,
Mm.
which I had the fleeting thought I couldn't remember in the bucket list where Morgan Freeman went. Was it Mount Everest? I think it was a different mountain.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Does that tackle religion? No, I don't think so.
The only thing I know about the bucket list is that that's where we get the phrase the bucket list from.
Yeah.
Which I think is so funny.
Yeah. But then he has a talk with God.
Mm-hmm.
And he's ready to get back out there. How would you surmise his resolution in that from that conversation?
I have no idea.
Um,
I don't know. He's like, get back out there, dude. I
yeah,
don't know.
he gets out there. He goes, he does good things, you know,
Mm.
he changes his life around a little bit. The last missing piece, though, is kind of Grace. Debbie comes over, Grace's sister. This is
Mm.
after he's finished training the dog.
Of
And
course.
Debbie comes and she tells him that Grace prays for him and she prays for him often. And
Mm.
so then he goes to the email.
And then he goes to invade her privacy and check in on all of the prayers that she's saying. Okay, anyways.
He can see every single prayer she has ever made. But
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then he
he's
sorts
God. He
them
has the
by
right.
category. He says, when did she talk about me? Because that's all he cares about. Anyways.
Because he's curious, because Debbie said that for a reason. And he's like, I wonder what the reason is. But Debbie didn't know that he would go and hack into her prayers. Debbie had no
Right.
idea.
You would never suspect anyone of being able to hack into your prayers.
No, but I understand. Again, we follow the logic.
We
We
follow
don't
the
have to
law.
agree with it, but we follow it. We
Yeah.
follow the logic. So obviously he's like, well, I know what her prayers are. Let me look at them. And he sees that she prays for him to be happy. And he's not happy because he doesn't have her. And he realizes his mistake from the beginning because he
Mm,
just kept complaining about everything that was wrong instead of focusing on what was right, which was her.
sure.
Yes, it's not
Yes,
sure. A
yes. Sorry.
definitive yes.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Good boy. And
Didn't like that.
and I just really I like that he was so miserable. I loved how and then he gets hit by a truck. Like, absolutely.
Mm,
He's just a man. Hit him with your car. So, and then he's dead.
yeah.
And then Morgan Freeman says the best thing ever. You can't kneel down in the middle of a highway and live to talk about it, son. I
And
don't
that's
know if
true.
that was a threat. Like, going back to that, I think that was just a fact.
Sure. Yeah. It could be taken either way.
Okay.
It could be taken as like, hey, this is good advice, or it could also be like God saying, you gave me an opportunity, I took it.
But yeah, but he cleaned himself up. He got himself into a good place. He realized what he wanted. All he really wanted was Grace all along. And then he got her back because he almost died.
Mm.
It manipulative, yes. I will give you that. It was manipulative. So
Yeah. I don't know. I think the last thing I have to say going back to, American religion, this presenting American religion, is that one of the most appealing things of American religion to people seems to be the individualization of it and the appeal to having this one-to-one relationship with God, with a deity. And I feel like there's this desire that Christianity that is influenced from, a lot of evangelical, specifically Christianity, um, or at the very least Protestant Christianity, that desires this one-to-one relationship with God, this personal relationship Christianity. I call it PRC Christianity, because there's this focus on, or this idea that I have this one-to-one relationship with God. And I think that's very appealing to people. For some reason, people really like that, and that's idealized in this movie. This is, the epitome of this one-to-one relationship with God, where you're best buddies with God, that He gives you your power. He gives you His power. And so it's this heightened one-to-one relationship with God that isn't really, I wouldn't say super, super common in all other religions, but is very appealing in like the Western idea of what religion is. And we really saw that highlighted.
Yeah, we did. I mean, like you said earlier, they didn't affiliate him to any specific religion, but you knew
Yeah.
what he was, but they still played around with other ones. But yeah, this was made for a certain audience. And from what I read on Reddit, it was well received by
Hmm.
Christians. I mean, nothing terribly offensive other than the monkey out the butt
Sure.
and then
Sure.
back into the butt.
Of course. Of course.
But that was the most scandalous it got. Well, besides the skirt, don't lift women's skirts unless
Yeah.
they invite you to.
Mm. Even if you're God.
Even if you're God, which if you're watching this, what's up, buddy? Why aren't you answering our emails?
See what I mean? See this like desire to like
Yeah.
want to have this one-to-one relationship? You're doing it right here, Jodie. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I
This
mean,
is what the
everyone
Western
has
mind
that
wants for
desire.
some reason.
He's almighty, though. Almighty, omnipresent, and he's probably seen this movie enough times that he doesn't need us to tell him more about it. So we will wrap it on up here. This has been the Religious Treehouse. I'm Jodie. He's Matthew. Like he said earlier, we are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Bluesky, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. We should be broadcasting to, but
We should be.
we should
And
be.
if we're
I
not,
signed us up for all the things.
yeah, that's true.
So there is that. Now we're going to go make a TikTok and it's going to be so much fun. You guys should go
Ooh,
check it out. Oh, email us at thereligioustreehouse@gmail.com.
bye.
Okay, it's funny you said PRC because there's this artist, Peach PRC, and
Oh,
she has one of her first songs I ever heard. The lyrics are, God is a bit of a freak. Why is he watching me? Is it get railed over the table? But she talks about like how like if God's omnipresent, he's seeing
yeah.
her have very dirty things done to her, and that then
Hmm.
implies that he's a freak.
I like, I don't like that, but following the logic, as we like to say, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.